Today we are talking about Cyprus Super Highroller Bold at 50k. There were only 5 paid and this was really madness. I've never seen a bubble like that. I'd say we just kick it off. We are starting with a stick hand to begin with. What's happening here? I open it under the gun and blind is calling. I think I can say that. I'm not spoiling anything. Something which is important here. Actually, just watch my opponent for 15 seconds. Maybe you get the same impression that I got. Alright, what is it that I mean here? I really had the impression that he had a very hard think. Especially when I sat next to him, when I watched my opponent, I really had the impression that he had a very hard thought about his decision. I was thinking he probably considers the jam, but then he only made the call. So how does it continue? We flop a mono board and I flop the top pair. So we could think it's excellent, of course. I make a c-bet, and what's happening here is I face a raise. And at this point, I'm like, damn it, I have top pair, I know I should continue it, but now we face the problem that I originally said. I don't think my opponent has a normal range here. I think that my opponent has a range that doesn't really contain the middle hands. I think maybe he had the pocket 7s, maybe he had the pocket 8s, maybe he had the ace 4 of diamonds. Like, I'm thinking, what are the hands that he had such a difficult decision pre-flop? That's all what is in my mind. And eventually, like after 1 or 2 time banks, I just folded. You know, for you watching, you're seeing he had a bluff and then you're like, oh, I just folded the top pair with top kicker here. But I'm still thinking it's a decent decision. And I said, of course, we're gonna work with solvers, and I tried to recreate that scenario. So in this spot, have I shown you the payouts? I don't think I've shown you the payouts, but I can tell you the winner wins around $550,000 and the min cash for the 5th place is $120,000. This is just the solve for this situation. I can see bet a lot. If my opponent check raises, then we can see that ace queen is a continuation. But if we take a look at the details, it might be a little bit of a small number for you, but I will just tell you. Continuing ace queen without a diamond has an EV of around $640. So given that the min cash is 120,000 and the first place is like 550,000, an EV of $600 is very small. So even to begin with, the EV is very small. And then in the second sim, where I tried to recreate this scenario with giving him a different range, the EV of this situation is, depending on the combo I look at, but it's around $9 losing actually. So that made me so happy to see it. So either it's a marginal continuation or it's just a fold. Alright, next hand is already a key hand in terms of the bubble play. 6 players left. What is the action? You see 1 player busted, big blind increased to 40,000 and I have 20 big blinds. We see 3 short stacks. They're all about equal. 12 big blinds, 12.5 big blinds, 15 big blinds. I'm there with 20. And then we have the 2 big stacks. So the situation is that everybody is folding to me. And now it's my time to make the decision. I can see open jam. And yeah, that's what I did. It is really not a great timing if my opponent wakes up with pocket kings, I have to say. This is the strategy in my situation here. What can we see? I played the hand perfectly fine. I have more chips than the others. I have 20, they have around 12.5 to 15 in the short stacks, and we're in a direct bubble, so I can really make a ton of pressure. I can play almost every single hand. If I'm very trashy, like if I have a real bad hand, I will use it to raise small, same as I would do with my absolute strongest hands, like pocket 9s plus, or the really top hands I would make a small raise. Some of the trash hands I make a small raise, and everything else is just all in. I also want to show you his reaction here. This is what my opponent should call. We can see kings well up there, obviously. I'm curious, he played very tight on this final table. I will show you one hand later, I believe, where he made a very tight fold with pocket jacks pre-flop in some crazy ICM spots. But yeah, that's how it is. Made the right decision. I'm happy about that. Okay, next situation. What do we have? I won't look good on this one. Yeah, I made one bigger mistake on this final table according to the solver EVs, and unfortunately it's the next hand that we will see. What is happening? We are of course still on the bubble. I told you the bubble takes forever, and the bubble really took forever and even longer. We have 3 short stacks, 1 mid stack and 2 big stacks. And the button here, one of the two big stacks, he is going all in. And I'm in a big blind. I started the hand with 9 big blind, but it's a big blind ante format. So out of the 9 big blinds, 1 I posted as ante, meaning I have 8 big blinds to start the hand with. So if I look at how I behaved in game, it was not like a snap folded, you know, like I looked around and tried to analyze like how deep are the other short stacks exactly. What is my stack size? Like I took some thought about it, but I concluded that queen jack offsuited is not enough here. However, the solver really disagrees here. Here it is. Here is what I should call, and here is what my opponent should play. And I think we might not be used to extreme spots like this, because often when you play ICM situations, it's not like your opponent can go all in with jack 5 offsuited, you know, and 5-4 offsuited. Your opponent in terms of stack or ICM pressure can play a strategy where maybe he can play 40-50% of hands, or maybe even 60% of hands. And it's such an extreme spot, like we're on a direct bubble, we have some even stacks, that he can play such a loose strategy because opponents typically call tight here. And if I am playing against a range that is so loose, where he goes all in with so many hands that I dominate, queen 7, queen 5, queen 4, jack 7, jack 8, then actually me being the shortest one of the short stacks, I should have called it. It's a huge difference for the small blind. So if you expect the small blind to be calling with king queen offsuited, it's not even close. The SAM pressure for me is really reduced because I already am the shortest. It's very likely that I bust and I don't reach any money by just folding. I don't have the stack where I can just fold and wait and fold and wait. In terms of EV, I'm not happy that I'm 2 kickers off. 1 kicker being off is okay, but those are not my standards. That queen 10 is a call and a fold queen jack. Next hand is nice, I like it. Here we go. We are already 3 hours into the bubble, we're still 6 players. What are the stacks? I see it's a lot more even now. We can see there are 5 short stacks and 1 big stack, who is like significantly bigger than everyone else. And under the gun, one of the shorter guys, him in races. And here Adrian is waking up with pocket 9s. At first glance, pocket 9s looks like a very strong hand. But Adrian folds. Excellent, excellent fold. So in order to make a fold like that, we really need to be well aware of what is the scenario. It's direct bubble, where everyone knows, well, the chip leader is behind, he will probably go all in from the button anyway, he will make a lot of pressure on the shortest stacks. So for the opener, it's a situation where you will play very, very tight. It's not like, oh, I have ace-9 offsuited, I just raise now. No, you basically play very, very tight and you let the big stack do the job. So if Mitzi is raising here, that is really a reasonable and a strong range. And Adrian knows, well, I can't flat. Like 16, 17 big blinds, I'm too short. It would be different if you're 25, 30. Sure, you can consider flat. But with that stack size, flat is really not the option. So what were the alternatives? Should Adrian free bet on all-in and then fold to an all-in? That's like not a good game plan. Also for like free bet bluffs, you want to have blockers. You want to have the ace. That's the most important one. Blocking aces, blocking ace king. And Adrian concluded, I don't see a way how to play this, and he just folded it. And that is Adrian's strategy here. And we can see, well, it's not that clear in the solver, but like the main line is the fold. So really, really well thought of Adrian, and he made the correct fold. However, the hand doesn't even end at that point. I have in a big blind ace-7 offsuited, and I know now I am playing against one of my opponents. Like, shortest stack opens, I am the shortest stack of all, or close to, and I have an ace, and I'm like, it's a min raise, should I defend it now, playing against one of my direct opponents? But for the same reason as Adrian folded his pocket 9s, I concluded that the range is just too strong, so I actually let go of this hand. And this is the strategy that I should play here. And yeah, what can we see? I could here and there go ahead and actually free bet bluff it, but it is not strong enough to call. I really have to be suited in order to defend here. Even suited connectors are super, super borderline, or they don't even make it here, because it's direct bubble. Next hand, the longer the bubble continued, the higher the blind level, and I think we're getting now into the push-fold territory. What is happening? Blind level increased twice, so we find ourselves at big blind 80,000. I have 8 big blinds. There are 2 stacks shorter than myself on the table. And now there are many ways you can take a look at this hand, or can ask, or you can play around with a solver. And that's what I will do first. Here it is. And the solver will tell you, oh, it is break even. So basically both options are fine, right? I've thought about many aspects. I will not tell you yet what to do. Then in the solvers, we also have the option to not only look at this specific hand, but I can tell the solver, could you please look one hand ahead as well? Why? Because next hand I'm gonna be the big blind. So with that understanding, maybe it's worth to take some more risk, because like I cannot sit there and wait forever. And what is the outcome if I'm gonna be the big blind in the next hand? And what we can see, instead of ace-6 offsuited being just break even, now we can say it's really profitable. Like this is not close, it's profitable, plus 0.27. And the same thing which I did here, where I'm saying, okay, we're thinking one hand ahead. I can say, now let's think two hands ahead. I'm gonna post the big blind, and in two hands I'm gonna post the small blind as well. So this is the third picture. Now the EV went down a little bit again. This is surprising. Why does it go down? Cannot tell you exactly what is the difference between those two scenarios, but I was still not satisfied, because I would say a lot of good pros up to this point, definitely they have all the understanding. But now we can make the game that we just played here, we can make it a little bit more extreme. Because I was thinking maybe this is a little bit too biased. I only focus on myself, I get hit by the big blind. But the solver does not understand at this point that also the other short stacks like Adrian or Velasevic, they also gonna get hit by the blinds at some point. So what I did here is I made a future game simulation model where I said, okay, I want you to calculate 4 rounds in advance, so that you see that Adrian is gonna be the big blind as well, that Adrian is gonna be the small blind as well. And what is the result? This is the result for the future game simulation 4 rounds. And this is a very funny circle, because we are exactly back where we started. It looks like almost like the identical range, but ace-6 offsuit, it started as a break-even hand. Trying to being smart and applying future game can make it misleading here, thinking, oh, it's hugely profitable to go all in. But now if we run it 4 rounds in advance, suddenly we're back to break even. And those are some of the details that I really want to share with you here. And I actually made the fold here. Next hand, it's funny because those hands are so similar, and I still want to show you because it's so extreme what we see here. Let's take a look at the stacks. You can see it's just getting more extreme, 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 and extreme. In this scenario, I have 5 big blinds, 5.5. This hand, purely looking at this hand, I can already tell you it's a snap fold. It's not gonna make it. But if I allow future game simulation, probably it will be very close. And we're gonna take a look at it now. So ICM, you know how it works by now. You have the understanding. By now, nowhere close. Like, can't make it. How should it be possible? We play the game Future Game Simulation 1 and already it's break even. We're gonna hit by the big blind next hand. We're gonna continue this game with Future Game Simulation 2 and suddenly it's plus CV. Now we get hit by the big blind and a small blind, and the solver tells us, oh, with that information, you should just push your hand. So instead of being a super punt, you could call it, if I would go all in based on this model, it's a punt. It's just not even anywhere close. But if you go with Future Game 2, suddenly you have to go all in. And if you don't find it, it looks like you're a fish. You know, of course, now I'm using very strong words, but I want to make it clear, the point here. But now, again, you know it. I am not satisfied, because let's count. How many hands does it take for Adrian to be the big blind? Next hand, I'm the big blind. Second hand, Missy is the big blind. Third hand, Adrian is the big blind. So I definitely needed the information of the third round as well, and how that impacts this. And here we have it with the third round. So now the final decision, it's of course not the final decision. If you want a perfect model, it's absolutely not possible. Then you would need to run this like forever. And running it, Future Game Simulation 3 is about the maximum what you can do these days. I mean, you can run it 4, but if you run 5 rounds into the future, the computer calculates 3 days. So this hand in the end is around break even. I would say this is as best I can go here. And I made the fold, concluded I'm third shortest. It's the better choice. Next hand, here we go. So I was the shortest now. Everyone else is short beside the huge chip leader at that point. He can just go all in every hand. So he went all in here. And now Missy had woke up with pocket jacks. He has only 6.5 big blinds. So you might say, oh, snap card, you know, 6 big blinds. But don't forget, there is a stack with 3 big blinds. There is a stack with below 5 big blinds. There is another stack with 5 big blinds. So it's not that clear. Let's put it in perspective. It's not that clear for decision. I mean, he folded it. So what can we see here? This was too much of an adjustment. Yes, the ICM is strong, and it's so strong that if you called off ace-king offsuited, it's a big punt. What's your equity? Ace-king off against his random 8-6 offsuited. Sure, you're ahead, but he has 2 live cards. You can easily lose against all his random cards. Those would be the wrong hands to call. You could never call a hand like ace-queen suited or so. But the high pairs, if you're playing versus a 80% range or 100% range, they really perform excellent. So that was clearly a too tight decision here. And then we have ace-3 offsuited. I will show you, I'm gonna have a tough decision in the next hand. And a tough is an understatement. Like this decision that I'm gonna have now, it's just insane. It's like crazy. And I still cannot tell you what is the right play. And that's the decision. And it's just terrible. Like, the thing is, how do you even start to analyze this? You might say, first level, I'm gonna analyze it, and what is the result? Ace-3 offsuited ICM, super, super, super easy snap fold, not even anywhere close. But you know what is the problem? What about future game? I have 3 big blinds. In 2 hands, I'm gonna be the big blind. I will boast the big blind ante, and I will boast the big blind. So I lose 160,000 of my chips. That means how much do I have left? I have left 70,000 chips, of course, then. So this is something this doesn't take into account. So if I would do that, future game simulation 2, in 2 hands I'm the big blind, suddenly the decision is shifting. But not like, we're not talking about a small change. We're talking about 8% range to now suddenly it's 4 times as loose. It's 36% range, 35% range. And now we're talking about a snap jam. But, you know, it's not like this is wrong and this is right. It's like we have to think stronger, because the point here is, which makes this hand so incredibly tricky, we're doing it in our head now, okay? We're making this 5 rounds ahead. So if we're talking about 5 rounds ahead, currently you have 230,000 chips. In 2 hands, I'm gonna boast the big blind ante, 80,000, and I'm gonna boast the big blind as well, 80,000. We're gonna say I fold. At the end of the 2 hands, if I fold it, I have left 70,000 chips. Let's do the same, and we add 1 more hand. We add a 3rd hand. I'm gonna be the small blind. I will post 40,000 chips and I fold. So what is my result after the 3rd hand? I have left 30,000 chips. What is the 4th hand? 4th hand, I'm the button. I don't pay anything. I have left 30,000 chips. And what is the 5th hand? I'm the cutoff. I don't pay anything. I am left with 30,000 chips. And why is this so crucial? You might now see what is happening with Velasevic, the player who is currently on the small blind. So before posting the small blind, he started with 170,000 hands. So what is happening to him? In 5 hands, he's the big blind. And if he's posting the big blind and he's posting the ante and he's folding, he's left with 10,000 chips. What does it mean? It means that in 6 hands, he's auto all in. So now we need to think further than any solvers can go, you know? And like in 6 hands, I know my opponent is auto all in, and I am still there with my ridiculous 30,000 chips. I'm left with 0.4 big blinds. I think the future game simulation chart is wrong, because future game would tell you, oh, only I get hit by the big blind, I have to be super, super loose. But this is not the correct picture, because if you would play this forever, and you know what I did now with you together, we realize it's my opponent being auto all in first and I have left with 30,000 chips. So this very strong adjustment with me having to do something immediately, right now, this is wrong. But what I cannot tell you, because humanly to me it's not possible, I cannot tell you what is the right strategy. Even if we would have the future game simulation 5 result, then my opponent at the end of the calculation would have 10,000 chips left. So what I would like to see, but it's not gonna be possible, would be a future game simulation 6 result. Here I concluded I wanna fold. next spot. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We find ourselves one round later. As of now, it's the button being left with 2.1 big blinds. But the good thing is we don't have to start from scratch. We know that as of now in 5 hands, because previous hand we said in 6 hands he's auto all-in, by now it's in 5 hands he's auto all-in. I have a Future Game Simulation 5 result for this hand. We have the ICM. ICM says it's close, but it's a fold. It doesn't make it. Future Game Simulation 2 means 2 rounds into the future. What does it see? It sees, oh, I'm gonna hit by the big blind next, and in 2 hands I'm gonna be hit by the small blind. So again, you can see the insanely drastic change of strategy from 13% to 40%. By now we know Future Game 2 is not correct here because we need something more. If we go now the Future Game 5 result, like this took forever to run, but finally we got a result for Future Game 5, and I have to tell you, I'm a little bit skeptical about this result because intuitively it feels too loose to me. Even though in 5 hands he is indeed auto all-in. So technically Future Game 5 should be capable of seeing all of this. From what I know is that Future Game 2 is just a bit too focused on ourselves. It doesn't see the other stacks getting problem. So sure, I know the 39 was too loose. But now with Future Game 5, why is it only going from 39 to 30? I expected some more impact on this. But yeah, with all the information I have, I would say Ace-8 is the clear all-in. What is the trade-off that we have to do? Either I'm playing the game of folding, hoping I get the main cash by my opponent being out all-in first, or I go to second round where I'm saying no, I want to be the active one. I take the decision now. Either I double back to 600k or I'm out. And I decided I want this way. Why? Because this way leaves me some chance for the good places. I could finish second easily. Like if I double here, I have 600,000 chips, I could easily finish second. If you play the other game with just falling and waiting who is ordered in first, then I play for the 5th place only. So that's why I decided I'm going with it. And I did double. So now I'm in a prime position for having actually a really good score in this tournament. Next one is not for myself, but this is a cool one. I'm not gonna spoil it, but I can tell you what happened afterwards. After the next hand, on the next tournament, I made a side bet with a good friend of mine because we were not sure about the outcome of the hand, and the loser had to make 3 minutes and 30 seconds blank. You know, that fitness exercise where you lay basically in the push-up position and you just blank. You're blanking. So was it me having to do the blank or was it my good friend? You will know after the next hand. So Adrian like, oh my god, why do I get this kind of spot? Eventually he called, and as soon as I see him turn over ace-queen, I'm like in my mind, no, that's not right. Definitely not. Because I've seen those things like thousands of times, like hundreds of times. So what is not so easy is he pocket 10s, is he pocket 8s. Like those things are not so clear, but there's no way it can be ace-king. Oh yeah, the chip leader could have 3 deuce offsuited, but the point is he has 2 life cards, and that's what we can't afford. This is the calling range of Adrian. Here we are, pocket 9s plus, that's it. And then I wanted to know, oh, what about if we do quick Future Game 2, just so that the solver understands that Velasevic is all in 2 hands. It doesn't change much, I can tell you, it's pretty much the same. I was a bit surprised why it's so much the same. Like, I mean, the EVs don't change much. Take a look at pocket 9s. Default is a call plus 43, but now understanding that our opponent is auto all-in 2 hands, the EV would be still plus 0.28. I don't fully trust it again. I cannot tell you the reason, but to me it just looks wrong. I think the impact has to be stronger. I'm not sure how the program exactly does the Future Game Simulation, but in my mind it's just wrong, and I would not call pocket 9s. We have one more hand left before I show you my final hand, how this tournament ended. This was 3 players left. The reason why I selected this hand to include is I want to give you a logic. A more simple one, but a very useful one. The button has 1 million chips, 10 big blinds, Adrian has 4 big blinds, and then there's the huge gigantic chip leader with 45 big blinds. He basically has 4 times or 3 times as much as the other 2 combined. And whenever that is the case, then you are realistically not playing for the first place. So the decision here that I'm talking about is from Osmos. That's the decision I'm talking about. Osmos thought, oh, I have queens. I want to induce now something, I min-raise, maybe the big stack pushes on me or something, I have a strong hand, but this is too greedy. You could do this maybe if the big blind has 2 million chips, you know, and you have a realistic shot to induce and play for first place. But the first place is so much out of line here for you, or so unlikely, that you cannot play this way. So you cannot play a greedy style where you min raise and you hope that something is happening. No, you don't do that. You actually play this strategy. The only hand that is strong enough to induce is pocket aces. No pocket kings, not enough to induce. So in a spot like this, we're really securing our vision to getting second place. To end it, just want to show you my final hand. So this was not so interesting strategically. I mean, I did run it just to show you. I go all in here with my 9.5 big blinds, queen jack suited, super standard. Opponent woke up with king queen suited and busted me. And that's it for me.